For centuries, no one knew if the man behind the Dracula legend was just a myth. Now, scientists have analyzed actual letters he signed nearly 550 years ago, and inside they found human molecules that reveal shocking truths. Vlad the Impaler may have literally cried tears of blood. Science confirms details behind history's most famous monster that few believed possible. So what is real and what is legend? Vlad III sits on the throne of Wallachia in the mid-1400s. His rule is not a legend. It is recorded in ink and blood. Wallachia, a principality in what is now southern Romania, stands as a barrier between Christian Europe and the advancing Ottoman Empire. The man at its head is known to his enemies and his people alike as Vlad the Impaler. The nickname is not an exaggeration. Reports from the time describe forests of bodies, tens of thousands of victims, impaled on wooden stakes as warnings to invaders and traitors. The numbers are staggering. Some sources say as many as 80,000 met this fate during his campaigns. His reputation for cruelty spreads across Europe. Merchants, soldiers, and diplomats carry stories of his punishments back to the cities of Germany and Italy. The Ottoman Sultan himself, Mehmed II, faces Vlad's tactics during the wars of the 1460s. These are not the actions of a myth, but of a ruler fighting for survival in a land surrounded by threats on all sides. Vlad's family history is just as real. His father, Vlad II, is a member of the Order of the Dragon, a secretive group of nobles sworn to defend Christianity against the Ottomans. In Romanian, Dracul means the dragon, so Vlad III signs his name as Dracula, son of the dragon. The title is not a fantasy. It is a badge of honor passed down from father to son. The evidence of his rule is not just in stories. It is in surviving documents, letters written in Latin, signed with his own hand. These letters, dated 1457 and 1475, survive centuries of war, fire, and shifting empires. They are stored in the Sibiu County archives in Romania, preserved as proof that Vlad the Impaler is not a shadowy legend, but a living prince who commands armies, forges alliances, and leaves his mark on history. His reign is defined by constant conflict. He faces betrayal from within, invasion from without. Every decision, every punishment, every sleepless night leaves a trace on his mind, on his body, and, as scientists now discover, even on the paper he once held. The terror that surrounds his name is rooted in the hard reality of 15th century power and survival. The man behind the Dracula legend is flesh and blood, not just a story whispered in the dark. Locked away in the Sibiu County archives, 3 letters sit under strict climate control. Each one carries the signature of VLAD Dracula, written in 1457 and 1475. These documents survive centuries of shifting rulers, wars, and even fire. But the real surprise comes when modern scientists step in. Vincenzo Consolo and his team from the University of Catania want more than just the words on the page. They want to find out what the paper itself can reveal about its author, instead of scraping or cutting. The scientists use a method called EVA extraction. It is a thin, flexible film made of ethylene vinyl acetate. They press the film gently onto the letter's surface and leave it overnight. The film acts like a molecular sponge, lifting invisible traces left behind by the writer, tiny proteins from sweat, tears, or even breath. The next morning, the film peels away cleanly, leaving the precious parchment untouched. Back in the lab, the real detective work begins. The film is washed in a special solution that releases whatever it captured from the letter. Researchers use high-resolution mass spectrometry to break down the mix, searching for protein fragments called peptides. It is a slow process, but the results are astonishing. From just these 3 letters, the team identifies nearly 500 different peptides. About 100 of them are human, far more than what would be expected from later handlers or the environment. The oldest, most degraded proteins are the ones most likely to come from Vlad himself, pressed into the paper as he wrote. The EVA method is non-destructive, so the letters are returned to the archive unharmed. The SciBIU archivists, who have safeguarded these documents for generations, watch as science unlocks secrets that even they never imagined were still hidden in the fibers. Now, for the first time, it is possible to study the physical traces of a medieval ruler, his molecules, preserved for over 550 years. The story moves from dusty vaults to the chemistry lab, where the next step is to find out what these proteins can tell us about the man behind the legend. Scientists in the lab stare at the results from Vlad Dracula's letters. Out of hundreds of protein fragments, a handful stand out. These are not just any proteins, they come from the eyes. Tire gland enzymes, retinal proteins, and mixed in tiny pieces of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the molecule that makes blood red. Its presence with tear proteins points to something rare, hemolacria. That's the medical term for tears mixed with blood. It sounds like something from a nightmare, but here it's written in the chemistry. Evidence comes from the pairing of specific peptides. One set matches proteins found in normal tears, like terlipocolin, which keeps the eye moist. Another matches fragments from blood, including hemoglobin and plasma proteins. Together, they create a signature scene in people who cry bloody tears. This isn't the result of a single accident or a careless cut. The degraded state of these peptides and their position among the oldest molecules on the page suggest they came from the original writer, VLAD himself. Hemolacria is extremely rare. In modern medicine, it can come from infection, trauma, or severe stress. For a ruler fighting for his life, surrounded by enemies, the body can break down in strange ways. The molecules on the page don't just tell us about disease, they connect Vlad Dracula, the real man, to the vampire legend in a way no story ever could. Blood from the eyes, not myth, not rumor, a trace left behind in his own hand, waiting centuries for science to find it. The proteins from Vlad Dracula's letters reveal more than a single rare condition. Traces linked to the lungs and airways point to chronic respiratory irritation. Other markers suggest his skin was inflamed, possibly covered with lesions or sores. There are even signs of stress in his urinary system, the kind of breakdown that happens to a body under constant attack. The evidence matches what is known about his life: a ruler surrounded by enemies, fighting wars, living with betrayal and fear. But the surprises do not stop there. Among the peptides, scientists detect fragments belonging to Yersinia pestis, the bacteria responsible for the plague. These specific protein pieces are only found in plague, not in other bacteria. The matches are precise, confirmed by controls, and double-checked with modern technology. There is no sign of these plague markers in blank samples or in letters from other archives. It is not contamination. The Black Death did not just sweep through Europe and leave Vlad untouched. The plague was in the air he breathed, on the paper he touched, woven into the fabric of his world. All of this is captured in the molecules left behind on 3 pieces of parchment. Bram Stoker, writing his famous novel centuries later, had no way of knowing about these hidden details. He chose the name Dracula for its dark power, not for any medical mystery. Yet the science now uncovers a real man whose body mirrored the horrors of the age, disease, blood, and death. The line between legend and reality grows thinner with every new discovery. Science now uncovers what legend could only guess: a real man, marked by war, disease, and the shock of blood in his tears. Today, the boundary between myth and evidence blurs further, reminding us that truth once hidden in molecules can still rewrite history. What else waits beneath the surface?